had empathy for those who are still suffering from the aftermath of COVID and the economic downside of all of that. And again, talked about our commitment to democracy by helping the people of Ukraine. Let me just start with Ukraine. It's just amazing to see the diabolical actions taken by Putin as he has complete disregard for sovereignty, democracy, or human life, including civilian lives, and those of children. Very pleased that we had a very strong bipartisan resolution yesterday expressing support for the people of Ukraine and talking about our commitment for helping with their defense, helping with their economy, helping with their humanitarian needs. And then again, we will be, in our appropriations bill, we've received the president's request, having that under consideration now as to how we go forward. There's so much to be said about Ukraine, including just the most recent statement by the readout from the French on the Macron-Putin conversation. I don't know whose analysis it is, but the readout was that the worst is yet to come. There's more bad to come. So it's pretty horrible. So again, I want to salute the president. He, working with our allies, are presenting a united front against Putin. If his intention was to divide NATO and the West, not just NATO, but other countries, in fact, he has instead unified them even further in terms of their commitment to sovereignty, democracy, and peace. Again, over the past year, the U.S. has sent Ukraine over $1 billion in security assistance, and again with our allies, to continue to do even more in those areas I mentioned: security, economics, their economy, and meeting their humanitarian needs. The president also talked in his speech about some unity measures in the Congress of the United States. We are now in the midst of completing the Competes Act. We call it Competes. It has another name. America Competes in 2022. The America Competes Act. They have a different name, but we have the same goal. It's about three things. It's about making chips, developing chips, $52 billion for chips and semiconductors. It's about addressing the supply chain needs, $48 billion to address the supply chain, to increase supply and therefore reduce cost and make us independent and self-sufficient as a country by not depending on the needs of some countries, the supplies of some countries of concern. And then the third part, which is about education and research and STEM research, science, technology, engineering, and math, in order to have more diversity and more everyone participating in the economic security and prosperity of our country. The president also talked about what we can do in some other areas in fighting cancer, opioids, issues like that, where I think we do have common ground and can participate. And he talked about our veterans in that unity message. And in that, he talked, and I was particularly excited about honoring the PACT Act. Some of you have heard me say before, this goes way back 40 years for me as a chair of the California Democratic Party when I went with Dick Gregory to be part of a hunger strike with our Vietnam vets who were protesting against the use of Agent Orange and what it meant to their health after the war. It took us a very long time to address those concerns. In fact, we didn't really complete it until a few years ago when we addressed the Blue Water, the Navy part of that. But we can't wait that long for the burn pits. So right now on the floor, we are just gaveling down, and that's why I was running a little bit late, the burn pits legislation, where our young people, our men and women in uniform, whatever their age, find themselves in harm's way to fight for our freedom are also in harm's way because of the burn pits. And they have cancer after the fact. Sometimes it doesn't even come until 6, 7 years later. But the fact is, if they were present, there is a presumption that is a relationship. We had a press conference yesterday on it. We had our amendments yesterday. Today we passed the bill, and now we will work with the Senate to make it easier and healthier for our, it's a cost of war. And it really amazed me, and I'm rarely amazed and surprised around here. But for the Republicans to go to the floor and say, the veterans really don't want this help with their help because it's going to cost money. And they're more concerned about the budget of the than they are about their health. Oh, really? You just gave tax cuts in 2017 to the richest people in America. Tax cuts for the rich, cancer for our veterans. That's how we see this discussion and this debate. That's Mr. Raul Ruiz, who's been a very important part of all this, says it, and I agree with him. Mr. Mark Takano, chair of the Veterans Affairs Committee, has done a great job with all of this, and I'm very proud of his work, honoring our pact, and honoring the pact, and then Elaine Loria, who has a veteran herself, also a member of the Armed Services Committee, very much a part of this legislation. But again, we have bipartisan support. It's a good number of Republicans who voted for it today. A larger number did not, but nonetheless, it's a bipartisan bill. So getting back to the State of the Union, I was very proud of what the President had to say about Ukraine, what he had to say about our veterans, what he had to say about our country's future, and the priorities that he put forth where he saw places where we could be unified, Democrats and Republicans, in coming together on all of this. We are in the midst of putting together our omnibus bill, so I'm going to have to run. We are also in the midst of putting together our competes bill, and both of them, the omnibus has a shorter fuse, but both of them need to be done as soon as we possibly can. With that, I'll be happy to take any questions you may have. Yeah, why don't you go first this time?
Obviously, the 1-6 committee had a filing last night. I know you don't want to talk directly about their work.
That's right.
But let me ask you. Obviously, you don't want to talk about their work, but that said, when you were on the dais on January 6th,
yes,
your security detail rushed you out.
Right.
Do you think that the threat was there, that they were trying to overturn the election, the mob outside the building? Because that's what's reflected in the filing today. What did you think was going on when that happened on January 6th?
Frankly, my concern was for the safety of my members, if you want to know what I was thinking. I was thinking about the safety of my members, the safety of our staff, the safety of the press who were covering us. So I was totally consumed, and I didn't want to leave because I was like, well, but again, that totally consumed my thoughts.
You didn't think this was a threat to the electoral college and the integrity of the election at that moment?
I thought it was a threat to our democracy, our Constitution, and the Capitol building, and all that entails. Jake?
On the omnibus, can we get an update on where you are? I mean, it seems like there's a bunch of riders still outstanding, and furthermore, on the $22.5 billion in COVID money, Republicans are balking at that. How do you see the state of play?
Well, the appropriators will be negotiating all of this. The fact is the $22 billion for COVID is absolutely necessary. In fact, we probably will need more as we need more therapies. One of the pieces of this is to buy the pills that will be. You get a sign, you take the pill. It's no longer about something being a sub-freezing temperature, only having a shelf life of a certain amount of days. This is science. This is going forward. So I would hope that they would see the wisdom of the science of what we need to do in terms of COVID, because the last thing we need is more transmission. Transmission is where variants are created. A new variant is a new challenge. So let's do as much prevention or early intervention as we can. And I would hope that they now how they pay for it and this or that. That's a negotiation there.
And the
What was the other
Ukraine
part?
money, do you plan on pushing that out as a separate vote? And then how do you plan on handling the Ukraine money?
Well, at the present time, the fastest way for us to get the Ukraine money is for us to have it on this legislation. So we'd hope that we can just come to agreement to putting it forth. And it's about, again, humanitarian assistance. It's about security assistance, and it's about economic assistance for them. So it's very important, and this is the legislative process. We will. I'm an appropriator, so I'm always trusting that left to their own devices, the appropriators, Democrats, Republicans, House and Senate, understand the urgency of meeting the needs of the American people as we keep government open. And in this case, we have a pandemic to address and the challenge that we face in Ukraine, and hopefully that will be Ukraine and COVID will be emergency. It will be emergency. They won't be part of the regular budget caps and the rest. Yes, ma'am.
Madam Speaker, average gas prices in the Bay Area surged above $5 a gallon for the first time ever in history. So how
To
high,
about $5 a gallon.
yeah, above $5 a
Yeah.
gallon. So how high do gas prices need to get before you would support something like opening up federal lands to drilling?
Well, let me just say that the issue of the price of gas and the price of oil is directly related to what is happening in the Ukraine. Doesn't mean it can't go up and down Ukraine. Doesn't mean it can't go up and down without a related to of gas. And one of the suggestions that has come up is that we have a holiday from the gas tax. I bring that up because that's what we've heard the most of. And that sounds good. But do you know that there is no guarantee that the oil companies pass that reduction on to the consumer? And it's very hard to write a bill that requires them to pass it on to the consumer. You think that it's at the pump, it's the consumer paying it, comes off, but that's not the way it works. So I think that if we can have a holiday that guarantees the consumer benefits rather than more profits for the oil companies, that would be a path that we can take. The President has already talked about releasing oil from as he already has done from the sprawl and others. I'm not for drilling on public lands. Yes, ma'am.
Just to follow up on Chad's question with respect to what you and every member experienced, and given this filing that the committee released last night, do you believe former President Trump should be held criminally responsible?
I'm not going to answer any questions about what the committee is doing. They have their independence. I've kept myself completely separate from their actions, and I have no intention of commenting on them except to thank them for seeking the truth and seeking the truth so that the American people know what the assault was on our Constitution, our Congress, our Capitol. Capitol, that's easy. You just repair it. The traumatic effect on our workers and the rest, harder to repair. It was a terrible thing. And again, seeking the truth is very important, and it won't be happening with my answering questions in here. But right now, we're trying to save the lives of our veterans. We're trying to meet the needs of the American people with our omnibus bill, and we have many challenges ahead of us. The President put forth a blueprint, again, for strength and progress and confidence and empathy for meeting the needs of the American people. That's what our legislative focus is. The investigation of the committee is their work. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Madam Speaker, there's been a push by some Democrats to ban the import of Russian oil, and I believe that Senators Manchin and Murkowski are going to put forth a bill on that today. Where do you stand?
I'm all for that. Ban it.
Ban the oil.
Ban the oil come from Russia. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Madam Speaker, we saw the State of the Union, no mass there. We saw the
Yeah.
guidance come down on
the last extension of proxy voting in the House?
No, that's up to the Capitol physician. That we take all of our guidance from there, including opening the House. I think you'll see an unfolding now of the Capitol opening. It's about COVID, and it's about security. Mostly, it's about COVID, though, and so that will be up to the sergeants at arms, and it will be up to the Capitol physician, and we just take our guidance from them. I mean, we were very fortunate that they came to the conclusion that all members could participate in the State of the Union address, but it was up to them. We could not make that call. Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
On the
Last question.
On the State of the Union,
Yeah.
we did see numerous outbursts from Representatives Boebert and Green during President Biden's speech. As I'm sure you probably remember, when Congressman Joe Wilson yelled "You lie" at President Obama in 2009, the House actually passed a resolution of disapproval on that. We haven't heard any talk of that now, but I'm wondering just what is your reaction to those outbursts? Should any action be taken, and what does it say about this process?
Let me just say this. I agree with what Senator Lindsey Graham said. Shut up. That's what he said to them. I think they should just shut up. Thank you all very much.